We are live, baby. I believe we're in the house. We're in the building. We'll wait till the people start to accumulate. We'll get some questions in. We're doing a UFC 241 recap right now. Stipe Miocic retains. Nate Diaz wins against Anthony Pettis. A lot of this fight card was amazing, man. I barely could fall asleep after this fight card. I was all high energy and sometimes I feel like I'm in there myself. So I was like, wow, I got to calm down and try to relax before I get some sleep here. But nonetheless, it was an amazing card. A lot of great fights. I didn't really see who they gave the bonuses to, the performance bonuses. I thought maybe that new guy who with the big upset over Devontae Smith, Kama Worthy. I thought they usually give the bonuses to the new guys, the ones that are need money the most, that come in and prove themselves. So I don't know if they gave Kama Worthy that 50 G's, but hopefully they gave it to him. That would be cool. He came in on 5 days notice and had a big upset. But we'll start down lower on the prelims. I wanted to talk a little bit about Kang versus Brandon Davis. Brandon Davis, he's a big guy for the weight class. So was Kang. He looked like he was pretty close in size. But Brandon Davis says he runs like 20 miles a day, which is very hard to believe, especially when like you calculate all the other training that goes into this. It's just really hard to believe 20 miles a day. I mean, I run a lot. I run like 5 miles 4 times a week, 3 times a week, and I feel like that's enough. On top of all the other stuff, swimming, circuit training, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, everything else. So it's like, I don't know how you're fitting 20 miles in a day, but he says he starts his camps at 172. And you got to imagine, like, how much is that weight cut taking a toll on him? Because with all that running, you would think a guy like that, his cardio would be unstoppable, but it did seem like he got a little tired towards the third round, and Kang was able to expose him with the wrestling. And one thing I wanted to point out in that fight, the referee stands them up when Kang's in side control. He just worked to get the position, a very dominant position. You're in side control. Granted, he's not throwing heavy ground and pound, but it's a positional match. This is part of MMA. Side control is part of jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is a martial art that's part of this sport. Why are you stripping a guy of a position when he just got there and he's trying to work to improve himself? It's not like you're going to throw, caution to the wind and just start throwing hammer fists and lose the position when you just barely, you just got there and you're trying to win the fight and out position somebody. I understand stalling is something we don't want to see, but man, Kang's in side control. The ref stands him up, and then not much later in the fight, Kang's in Brandon Davis's full guard, and the ref goes, Brandon Davis, the burden is on you now because you're in full guard. I didn't understand that. What do you mean the burden is on him now because it's full guard? The burden was on him when when Kang was on top of him in side mount too. The burden's on you to get up, to hip escape, to create a scramble, to look for a submission off your back. Even if you want to use some strikes off your back, that's available. I didn't understand that. Why when Kang was in side control was the burden on him, but then when he's in Davis's full guard, the burden is on Davis. Excuse me. That was some weird shit. I don't know where the ref got that from, but that was interesting stuff. What's up, Alex? How you doing, man? I'm trying to wait till people start coming in so we can get some more questions. But I'm talking about Kang versus Brandon Davis. That was a good fight. I thought Kang really sealed the deal with the takedowns in the end. It was a close fight leading up to that point. Davis was having some success with that calf kick, which we see a lot lately. That kick is devastating, and Davis was landing it over and over. You saw that it was taking a toll on Kang. He was switching stances because it was affecting him, but he was able to time those takedowns and kind of outposition Davis on the ground. And I think he won by points due to that. Hannah Cyphers gets the decision victory over Jody Escobar. Escobar has, I think, dropped like 4 losses in a row now, so you got to imagine that might be it for her. Um, Hannah Cyphers is a interesting character, man. She's like really nervous on the microphone. She's like really quiet. She's reserved. She's a farm girl, but she's a strong, tough girl. She showed some good kicks. She has some really good hooks too. Like she throws like some round, wide punches, but she really knows how to pinpoint accuracy with those and find the target. Really well. And Jody Escobar was doing good with the head kicks. It was just like one of those fights where it was like really close. None of them were really trying to finish the fight, but Hannah Cyphers landed the more significant punches. And the takedown scramble was good too at the end. Escobar landed a couple takedowns, didn't do much with them, but then Hannah Cyphers kind of reversed it in the end with that sweep and ended up on top. It was just a little bit more urgent to do damage in that fight, I felt. So good job by Hannah Cyphers, get the decision victory. Jakar Close versus Christos Giagos. I thought Close was gonna just run through this guy, and Giagos was really coming on strong early on in that fight. He seems just physically strong too. Like you saw when those guys tied up, that Close was like surprised, like, wow, this guy is stronger than I thought. And Close took time to open up in the fight. He said in his post-fight interview, the layoff had a lot of, played a factor in his slow start and stuff like that. But man, props to Giagos because he came out strong and he was doing really well, landed big shots early on. But I also felt like maybe Close was just waiting to let him gas himself out, because prior to the fight, he mentioned that this guy gasses out after the first or second round. So you did notice that the tide started to turn after the second round. Midway through, Close started to come on stronger and Giagos started to fade a little bit. And then Close had that takedown where he had him on his back for like 20 seconds, just holding him. And I was like, man, he's about to slam this guy on his head, but he dropped him. He went back and tried to kind of slam him where his back landed on the guy's head, and that was pretty cool. The fans always love to see that shit. But Close gets the decision. He calls out Gregor Gillespie, which I think is a big step up. Nobody's calling out Gregor Gillespie, but this guy, he did it. So props to him, because Gillespie is a really hard guy to fight. The guy's wrestling is relentless. His pace is relentless. And Close says, hey, I'll fight him in his backyard at MSG in November. So, hey, that's a big fight. That would be huge for Close because that would move him up the ranks. But I don't know if they're going to give Gillespie that fight, because I feel like Gillespie's kind of moving up a little bit faster than Close is right now. So we'll see what they do next. We'll see if they give it to him. Rafael Assunção versus Corey Sandhagen. Sandhagen is just moving on up, man. The guy's movement, his range, his he's very highly technical with his striking, and he displayed a very well-rounded game in there against a veteran like Assunção. So I felt like in this fight, Assunção really needed to land more takedowns and outposition Sandhagen on the ground, but Sandhagen was putting the pressure on him. He was backing him up. He was out jabbing him. He was kind of throwing off Assunção's game. It seemed like Assunção was just there to survive, and he wasn't really trying to throw or try to do damage anymore, try to finish the fight. But props to Sandhagen, man. The guy beat Lineker, and now he beat Assunção. He's right there now. He just beat number 3 in the world, so he's right there in talks for title contention. You got Aljo, you got Peter Yan. So I don't know what they're going to do next, whether Cejudo's going to defend that belt first or go back down to 125. They'll probably end up doing an interim title at 135. So we'll see what they do. But Sandhagen's got his case right there to get right in the mix. Assunção, the grappling was really fun in this fight. They were going back and forth with positions, doing, reversing position on top, looking for legs, a lot of scrambles. And, Assunção is a really high-level black belt, so Sandhagen showed that he can hang with the best guys on the ground in that fight. And on the feet, he's just so tough to deal with, man. Switching stances, he throws a lot of feints, which keeps you guessing. And then he's really long and tall and big for the weight class, so all of that plays a role. it seems like Assunção's kind of on his way out. His loss to Marias. Now he lost to an up and comer like Sandhagen. We don't know what they're gonna do next with him. He's probably gonna drop down significantly and get another fight against someone who's like, further out in the top 10. But Sandhagen's gonna get a big fight next, man. Either for a title or for a number one contender fight. This was the biggest upset on the card, man. Devontae Smith versus Kama Worthy. I thought Smith was going to knock this guy out in round 1 or round 2. Smith has shown that piston right hand in prior fights against tougher competition, too. And he was originally slated to fight, what's his name? From TriStar. He was from TriStar, and then now he's at Duke Rufus's gym, I think. Karate guy. Slipping up on his name. Well, he had 2 prior opponents that pulled out. John McDessie. He was supposed to fight him, which would have been tougher competition, in my opinion. And that guy pulls out. Kama Worthy steps up like 5 days' notice. He hits that left hook like on the neck. It was such a weird knockout to me because like the left hook, first off, didn't look powerful. Second off, it landed like kind of over here in a weird spot. Like it didn't hit his temple, didn't hit like the chin. It hit like the neck area over here and kind of sent Smith like wobbly down onto the ground. He was all out of sorts and he couldn't recover, and the ref stepped in pretty quickly. I thought maybe he could have gave it a couple more seconds to see what would have happened, because you see him like Smith was kind of covering up and trying to move a little bit. But man, big upset for Kama Worthy. The guy just made a name for himself real quick on ESPN. And set himself up for to catapult himself into the 155 division, because Smith had a lot of hype and a lot of momentum behind him. So that was just a huge victory right there. Paulo Costa, Yoel Romero. Actually, before we get to that fight, we'll talk Manny Bermudez, Casey Kenny. So this fight was supposed to be 135, but it ended up being a catch weight because supposedly, Bermudez was struggling to cut the weight. He was at like 143. They cut him off, said 140 is the cutoff. That's all you can make. And this was a unique scenario, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it because somehow the 2 fighters agreed, which props to Kenny because he's only walking around at like 145, 150. And he says, listen, I'll fight the guy at 140, even though he's going to come into the fight, 20 pounds heavier than him. I think Bermudez came in at 165 and Kenny came in at like 145. So 20-pound difference. And, so the 2 fighters agree, let's do it at 140. The UFC says that's cool. And then the commission says that's cool too. We rarely ever see this where all parties are in agreement and they change the rules essentially last second. Hey, we're going to do this at 140 catch weight. Is that cool? Yeah, that's cool. All right. Well, can we do this more often? Because I'm cool with grabbing my opponent and saying, hey, man, where you at right now? Oh, 142? Fuck these last 6 pounds. I don't want to cut. Do you want to cut? No. All right, cool. Let's do this at 140 and we'll call it a day. I think we should see this more often, man. If the fighters are down to agree and they talk to the promotion and the promotion says, hey, why not? Why would they care? I mean, I know the problem is they got to make more weight classes and there's no titles at 140. So it's like, what do you do with guys like this? You either got to move them up or make sure they can make the weight to end up becoming a champion if they want. But for the safety of the fighter, why not let guys make a mutual agreement on not cutting more weight? This is only going to be safer for your brain, safer for rehydration, safer in general for performance. You probably perform better to your abilities if you don't drain yourself the night before. I hate weight cutting. I don't understand it. I'm not a huge 135er. I mean, I walk around probably 155, but in camp, 3 weeks out from a fight, I'm like 148. And I'm fully hydrated. I'm having like 3, 4, 5 meals a day. And, it's not much of a problem for me. But once I get to 140, it's like death, I'm lean. I have to cut 4 more pounds, and my body really doesn't want to. So let's get rid of this shit. But this fight was exciting. I was really impressed with Kenny's ability to grapple with Manny Bermudez, who's submitted everybody his face. He's undefeated, 14-0. Kenny has some good striking, good wrestling. He's really a well-rounded guy. You know, he showed him really flashy striking with the jump kicks, and he was the much smaller guy, but he was able to hang with Manny Bermudez on the ground. He reversed a lot of positions. The scrambles were great. He was in trouble with a couple submissions and survived. He put Manny on his back. He was on top in some of these scrambles, and it was just a fun fight to watch. But, Kenny comes out with the decision victory, and props to him. That was cool that he took that fight to begin with, and then he was able to still do really well with a guy with 20-pound weight difference in the fight. So Romero and Costas. Romero's got such a veteran experience. He lulls you into these weird, you think he's hurt or you think he's tired, but he's not. He's doing this to fuck with you. And it really works because he goes back against the cage, kind of lulls you in. Sorry, buddy's calling me. We're supposed to golf today. You know how it is. But yeah, maybe we should take the call. Steve, you there?
Right.
Steve, you're live on the Boom Breakdown. I'm finishing up. I got 10 minutes left. Say hello to the people.
Hey, how's everybody doing? But for real, where we golfing?
He's live on the Boom Breakdown. We're talking golf.
I don't want to be live on anything.
We're talking about Romero versus Costa. I don't know if you watched the fights. Did you watch the fights?
Did Nate Diaz win last night?
Nate Diaz won. We're getting to that next, though. We don't want to talk too much. Can I call you back in 10?
Not really. I thought we were fucking golfing.
We are. I need 10 minutes.
Record this shit later.
I'll see you soon. Love you.
All right, bye.
Cheers. All right. So that's Steve. You guys met the friend Steve there live on the podcast. Usually we don't take calls, but hey, maybe that's a thing. Maybe we do a little, phone a friend boom recap. So yeah. So Yoel and Costa, what a fight, man. That fight was so intriguing and so exciting. And there was just, like Brendan Schaub says, first team all body right there. And two specimens just going head to head, a lot of power, a lot of explosiveness in that fight. And like I was saying, Yoel's such a veteran, he's sticking his tongue out. He's pretending he's tired, and then he just explodes on you with those uppercuts and those hooks. And, Costa was taking a lot of shots. I truly thought Yoel looked great with the volume striking. He was jabbing him up. He was uppercutting him. He was touching him a lot more than Costas was. I mean, yes, Yoel, went back against the cage, but he was wing blocking, and he was dodging punches. He was slipping with the punches. None of those punches were really landing too flush. A couple did, and they caught Yoel's attention, but I thought that the damage showed on Costa's face. I mean, he obviously looked like the more damaged guy. Yoel's made of stone. I think Whitaker said, he's like, you hit the guy and it fucking hurts you because he's just made of rock or whatever, man. That guy's a crazy specimen for a 42-year-old athlete like that. You don't see many 42-year-olds performing like that and moving like that. I thought he won the fight. I thought he had rounds 2 and rounds 3. I thought Yoel should have got the decision. They fucked me on a 5-person parlay on that fight. I had 4 fights in the books. I needed Yoel to win, and the judges fucking stuck it to me. You know what I mean? So that sucked. But hey, I won my other 2 parlays. I'm doing good with my bets. But yeah, it was a really exciting fight, and we'll see what they do now with Costa. He's gonna go to Australia. He wants to fly on Dana White's private jet. He's like, hey, listen, I'm going over there to see Adesanya and Whitaker fight. He says it's personal with Adesanya. He wants him to win because he wants to kick his ass. The whole kit and caboodle, baby. Boom. But that fight was awesome. That fight had me like holding my breath. I thought somebody was gonna go down. It was funny. Yoel was sticking the tongue out and taunting him, and then Costas gives him the soldier of God signal, and then throws the right hand down the pipe. That was just a really entertaining fight right there, man. I wonder if those guys got fight of the night, or who got fight of the night. I don't know. I didn't check the bonuses yet. Maybe you guys could tell me. But Pettis versus Diaz. This was the thing about this fight. I had picked Pettis to win, and I thought reason why the kicks. I thought Pettis was going to chew the legs up, chew the body up, and eventually set up the head where he was going to land something that we saw Nate Diaz finally get hurt and rocked. Very hard to do. Diaz has such a gas tank on him. He's the volume king, other than Colby, I guess you could say. Someone corrected me and said Colby Covington's the volume king. I mean, Diaz and him, kind of similar style, to be honest, except minus the wrestling. Same pressure idea, same volume striking idea. Not too much knockout power, but just pop, 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 body, body, pop, pop, pop. And it's like it just never ends. So, I thought the key differences in this fight were if Nate was going to win, it was going to be the pressure and the volume, and early on throw Pettis off his game, kind of get in his head. I've seen Pettis, his energy shifts in fights. He breaks sometimes. He stops trying as hard, it seems. He kind of gets tired and mentally drained, and he kind of just gives up a little bit. It's weird, and it happened in this fight because over time, he started to have less and less success, and Diaz started to open up and pressure him against the cage and land those pop shots. And you saw Pettis start to fade and give up positions like his back. Although he did really well with scrambling to guard, he was giving up positions and he was getting a lot of strikes landed on him. And Diaz started to just implement his game with his volume. He's so good in the clinch too at the hand control. I noticed he grabs the wrist, he loosens up, throws a couple of pop shots, and then comes back in tight. And he's genius with that. He'll just hold that wrist, that far wrist. He'll use head position, forehead in the chin, and then he'll pop you to the body, pop you to the head, loosen up for a couple of more hard shots, and then come back in, grab the clinch, grab the wrist, hand control. He does it over and over. He does it to everybody. Watch his clinch game, man. He's got a high level game. So yeah, hopefully this sets up a potential Diaz Conor trilogy fight. But I loved how he called out another OG in the game, Jorge Masvidal, 3-piece and a soda, baby. He's like, listen, I know you're a gangster, but you ain't no West Coast gangster. That was pretty cool. That was a good line right there. I feel like they're gonna look to make that fight because he just sold that shit right there, and it looked like Jorge was all about it. He was smiling, he was waving him on like, let's do this. So I feel like they're gonna make that fight, but I want to see the Conor Nate trilogy. Don't slip up and miss that fight. I mean, I know they can make that fight at any time, but I feel like now's the time. You got the momentum. Diaz just won. Let's jump on that shit now. Let's get Conor back in the mix. We need those press conferences again. But I wouldn't be mad if they do Jorge Nate Diaz. What a intriguing personality clash that would be. And even stylistically, that's a sick fucking fight right there. I would love to see that. What do we got here in the question section? We got some people saying some shit. Unemployed Mario Yamasaki. Yeah, I don't blame you. We need a job. We need to get a job for you. Romero vs. Costa was intense, man. I was fucking sick. What about Brunson switching up his style? Actually, yeah, good point. I want to talk about Brunson a little bit. Brunson, he was cool, calm, collected in this fight. He showed a lot of changes in his game. Usually he has his chin up high. He's just throwing caution to the wind and sprinting forward with those straight punches and just kind of leaving himself vulnerable. And he showed a lot of changes in his game. I think he moved camps. He was working at Hard Knocks with Henry Hooft. It showed that he made some changes, man. He fought very smart, showed very cool composure in there. His wrestling was the difference maker in this fight. He tired out Ian Heinisch with the wrestling, the takedowns. He really didn't leave himself open, too vulnerable. It was a competitive fight, but he was just a veteran in there. He showed that he's fought the tougher competition. He's been in there with bigger names and harder guys to fight, and that showed in the fight. Really, really good look for Brunson to switch up his game. He really has let himself, become sloppy and vulnerable and just kind of losing balance, which he had his moments in the fight where he loses balance a little bit because he overcommits, but he did a great job at changing up that style and not rushing things, staying patient, taking his time and implementing his game. Romero Costa got fight of the night. Okay, yeah. So they got fight of the night, Alex Aries. Thank you. I didn't see that. Yeah, they deserve it, man. They both took a lot of shots. That was an exciting fucking fight. I was loving that shit. Kama Worthy and Stipe got the performance of the night. Well deserved. Yeah, I thought for sure Kama Worthy was gonna get it. They usually hook up the newcomers that deliver, and he delivered. Man, biggest upset on the card. I think Devontae Smith was like minus 750 or something like that. Man, some people made some money on that fight betting on the underdog there. I stayed away from that fight because that was too much of a difference in odds, but some people made out big on that underdog status right there. So moving to the main event, Cormier and Stipe. Cormier is winning 3 rounds, I feel, maybe 2-1 going into the 4th. And he's implementing that clinch game. You know, what pissed me off a little bit is props to Stipe, man. Cormier's putting his hands out like this, constantly playing this touch game. I don't know why Stipe's doing it. I don't know why he's engaging and doing this and then getting jabbed, doing this and then getting hooked. Why are you engaging? Circle out, move out to your left, move out to your right. Cormier is a genius with this. He touches, gets you to reach, and then comes around. Gets you to reach, and then jabs. He's really smart with this touch game, but his fingers were in Stipe's eyes. He poked his eye again, which was something that happened in the first fight. But Stipe's like, next question. I don't want to complain. And that's why I say props to Stipe, because he could have said something to the ref. He could have stopped the momentum of the fight, but he didn't. He just took it. He's wiping his eye. He's like, fuck it. I'm just going to keep fighting and take it. You know, it is what it is, even though it's against the rules and you shouldn't be poking guys in the eye. But hey, taking a page out of John Jones' book, DC's like, you gotta go like this, bro. You block that shit easy. Can't poke nothing. Boom, baby. But yeah, so Cormier looked great early on. He was landing the jab. He took Stipe down. He outpositioned him on the ground. He was smothering him. Very successful on the feet. And then Stipe makes this genius adjustment. Comes out, starts dipping his head and throwing this body hook over and over. I think he landed it like 10 to fucking 15 times, man. And you would think that DC would start moving or make an adjustment to that, but Stipe didn't even set it up. He's just like, listen, you're letting me throw this to the body. Boom. 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 Like 15 times over and over, lands the shot. You saw it take a toll on DC. He started breathing heavier. He started slowing down. Stipe started to move forward. The whole first 2-3 rounds, DC was moving forward. He was pressuring. He was in Stipe's face. Then the 4th round, these body shots. Stipe starts moving forward. After that last body shot, he lands a hook right hand, another right hand, and his accuracy on that killer instinct was impressive, man. He landed about 4 or 5 punches while DC was stumbling and falling down, and that's not easy to do because that's a moving target. But Stipe's like pop, 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 and this is in the 4th round after he's taken a beating. He's tired. And he delivers a killer instinct finish. Very impressive. I knew Stipe had a crazy chip on his shoulder for some reason during this lead up. Getting knocked out to somebody and having a chip on your shoulder that you're going to beat them is not something you see all the time. But, some guys get caught and they believe they got caught and they believe they're the better fighter. And that's what Stipe believed. And he went in and showed that shit. He made adjustments. He got the finish. We don't know if DC is going to retire. I feel bad for DC, but I'm happy for Stipe because I love both those guys. I think this is I think DC is going to take his time, make a decision. I don't think he's going to retire, although he can, and he's built his legacy. It would suck to go out on a loss, but there's a trilogy fight out there to be made if he wants it. Are they going to go the John Jones route? Is John Jones going to come up and fight Stipe? Because I believe Stipe is a better matchup for him at heavyweight than DC is. But the history is not there. So I don't know if John Jones will take advantage of that, try to make history for himself, get 2 titles, or if DC will come back and fight Stipe a 3rd time, because we all know that Stipe is a class act, and he's going to give DC a trilogy rematch after getting his own rematch. So we'll see what happens with the heavyweights. But, man, what a fucking card. What a night of exciting fights, man. Everybody really delivered on that card from top to bottom. What do we got here? Ngannou again? Yeah, Ngannou's proved himself to come back too from a big loss, and that's a good point. I think we could if DC retires, that's the fight. Ngannou versus Stipe rematch, 100%. Um, that's the route that I would go. I feel like that's kind of obvious, clear cut. But I just don't know if DC will retire off a loss like that. The guy's a competitor, man. It's so hard to retire in general, even when you're winning. I feel like it's even harder coming off a loss like that when you're doing really well in the fight and you're competing at a high level and you're having success, and then you get caught yourself. So I feel like that we're going to see DC Stipe 3, but we'll see what happens, man. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you can give a thumbs up, that would be great. If you could subscribe to my channel, that would be great as well. We're trying to put out as much content as possible. Check out my music on Spotify. Boom. I'll post more links for more music coming up. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Brian Boom 135. I appreciate the support. Let's get this crack-a-lackin', baby. Boom. Trying to find the end button. There we go.